What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video on this lovely Saturday. Today I wanted to talk about a Jets rookie heading into the 2024 season and why I think Jet fans need to temper expectations for this rookie. Now, this rookie that I want to talk about is Malachi Corley, and he was the Jets' second draft pick in the 2024 draft class. He was taken at the top of the third round. The Jets traded up for him. They were very excited to land him. All those things could be true, and Malachi Corley can have an impact on this 2024 New York Jets team at some point in the season. I just think out of the gate, I wouldn't really have that many expectations for Corley, which again does not necessarily mean that his entire rookie season is going to be a throwaway. I just think there's a lot of guys in front of him who are going to be competing for reps. So we'll start with just him in particular and why I think that might be the case. He had a very quiet preseason. I thought 7 catches for 42 yards, ended up playing 71 snaps across 3 games, which is probably close to double more than what he would normally play in a regular season game, I would guess. And that, it might be closer to like in over 3 games. I would think it would take him to get to 71. 30 plays maybe seems about where he would be roughly in a game. And again, like I said, that might be a little bit ambitious. But moral of the story, it's not like he was crazy productive in the preseason. Not a huge sample size, but still wasn't crazy productive. Training camp had some really nice days. Also, I thought was a little streaky. Came on strong towards the end, which is a good sign. And, you know, again, I think eventually we'll be fine. But out of the gate, they're going to start him slow. I have 2 recent examples for you for the New York Jets, and both of those guys started slow to varying degrees. So Garrett Wilson, most recent Jets draft pick at the wide receiver spot at the top of the draft in the first round, he eventually wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. But if you remember how that season started, he had a monster game week 2. So you might be saying, well, Matt, doesn't that just defeat the purpose of what you just said about guys starting slow? Put a pin in that, because he did not play in the first half of the Ravens game in the season opener in that 2022 season. I was shocked to see who was getting force-fed the football, especially in that first half. And then I believe Garrett Wilson ended with 4 catches, all coming in the second half of that game when it was already out of reach. It was basically garbage time. Garrett Wilson got his production in garbage time of that game. In the first half, it was, I don't know what they were doing, but the game plan did not revolve around Garrett Wilson whatsoever. How about a year prior? In 2021, the Jets spent their second-round pick on Elijah Moore, and Elijah Moore ended up coming on strong at the end of the year, his rookie year, if you remember, and then going into year 2, hand up, I was a part of this, I was high on Moore. I thought actually that I thought down the line Garrett Wilson would be a better player, but in 2022, I thought they would rely on Elijah Moore more, no pun intended, than Garrett in his first year, and then eventually Garrett becomes a true number 1, and Elijah Moore settles into being a good number 2. That did not end up being the case. Elijah Moore was not utilized pretty much at all in 2022. They traded him away, and he's like a 3rd or 4th receiver on the Cleveland Browns. I don't know, was wrong about that one, but moral of the story, through 6 weeks of that season, Elijah Moore had 79 receiving yards. Granted, again, came on strong in the second half, was pretty good in the second half of that season, but I think had negative receiving yards his first game against the Carolina Panthers. So that's another example of, again, just 2 recent guys who you could pinpoint and say, they didn't really have the strongest start to their career. Also, with Mike Williams being ready to go for week 1, even with that, I still really think they're going to play a lot of Allen Lazard and Mike Williams as outside receivers, putting Garrett Wilson in the slot. They like Garrett Wilson playing out of the slot a lot, and we saw success with that in the past with Garrett Wilson in that 2022 season. I mentioned the Cleveland Browns game. He did a lot of damage from the slot in that game. I believe the game-winning reception came from him in the slot. Really excited to see him get back in there more and kind of move him around the formation. You don't have to rely on him exclusively as an outside guy. But even if you take Lazard off the field, right, in this instance, or Williams, Lazard or Williams, and then the other outside receivers, Garrett Wilson, Well, I think Xavier Gipson is very obviously ahead of him in the pecking order to line up in the slot when Garrett Wilson lines up outside. Xavier Gipson has a connection with Aaron Rodgers. We saw it in training camp again this year. The Jets like Xavier Gipson a lot. I don't know if in week 17 or 18 that it's still going to be Xavier Gipson in the slot, but I think they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt heading into year 2. And Malachi is going to have to really earn it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing that you have to earn this role. I just think I would not be surprised at all if like it's week 3 and one of the complaints from the Jets fans is, oh, well, like Malachi Corley has like 2 catches through the first 3 weeks or something or just a very low usage number. And it's like, whoa, what are we doing with this guy? Again, that could change by the end of the year, but I would think that Xavier Gipson is going to play and get more receptions there. And that's not to include, that's not to forget guys like Tyler Conklin, tight end, going to be very, very involved. Breece Hall going to be very involved in the passing attack. Hell, Braylon Allen, even we saw in the preseason and in training camp, could be involved through the air. And there's other names in there as well for the Jets. So for best case scenario for Malachi Corley, I think he's looking at, I don't know, being like the 5th receiver on this team, which isn't, horrendous out of the gate, but you'd eventually like to see that growth. I just want to kind of put that out there right now for Jet fans that we may see him start slow this year, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's over. Guys, that'll do it for me in this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.